Hello Chris, and welcome to the AWS offices in London.
Well, thank you, Tony, and it's always a pleasure to pop in to see my AWS friends and to talk about our mutual service provider partners and to talk about VMware Cloud on AWS.
Yes, VMware Cloud on AWS is our jointly engineered solution that helps our customers execute on their hybrid cloud strategies. It provides them the ability to move their virtualized environments and run them in AWS Cloud. So how do you see our managed services providers playing a role here?
Well, it's a very good question, Tony, and I think it would be fair to say that both AWS and VMware recognize the importance of our service provider partners in the delivery of VMware Cloud on AWS because they provide the value-added layer on top of the base platform. I think, though, that it would be worth you and I exploring why VMware Cloud on AWS is of particular value to our service provider partners. And the first area I'd just like to consider is the area around cost. Because it takes such a long time for our service provider partners to order, have delivered, unpacked and provision new infrastructure, they all carry some contingency capacity. And that contingency capacity can be in the order of 20 or even 30% of the entire infrastructure environment. With a move to VMware Cloud on AWS, you don't need to carry contingency capacity because you can provision additional nodes in 10 minutes. So for our service provider partners, a move to VMware Cloud on AWS effectively means that they can recoup that 20 or 30% of infrastructure costs that they have as contingency capacity.
And another area is the ability to scale. Now, the AWS Cloud provides the ability to go global in minutes. And with AWS being available across 64 availability zones across the world, and VMware Cloud on AWS becoming available in those regions, how do you see this helping our MSPs?
Well, Tony, I think that the great value of the global footprint is that it means that our service provider partners can provision a data center in another country or another continent without even leaving their offices. They can copy client data into those data centers and they can deliver a service somewhere else in the world, again, without even leaving their own offices. So that must have implications, Tony, for the revenue generating opportunities for those service provider partners. And because it transforms those service providers from being probably important national or regional partners into international partners. And that brings us, Tony, onto the area that both you and I feel strongly about, which is the harnessing or the attaching of native AWS services with traditional VMware workload.
Absolutely, Chris. And there are over 160 AWS services available on the AWS Cloud. And this opens up a treasure trove of opportunities for our MSPs to build additional services around VMware Cloud and AWS. Now, let's take storage, for example. Now, MSPs can help customers build policies to help customers store and back up their data using Amazon S3 buckets. Equally, they can use the same similar services to do archiving using Amazon Glacier. And lastly, if you look at the underlying databases, they can use Amazon RDS to manage that data. What examples do you see MSPs being able to do here?
Well, Tony, one of the areas that I particularly like is the area around big data. So you could imagine a CRM database on VMware Cloud and AWS. You could imagine extracting data from that database and populating an S3 data lake, and then using an AWS service such as Redshift to interrogate that data lake and extract customer insight that was just not possible before. And because these environments are so close together, you could almost have near real-time business intelligence if that was a requirement. So the great thing about this is that for the end client, he gets the insight that he couldn't have dreamed as being possible before. And the great thing for the service provider partner is it's a new revenue stream that he would be able to harness, and it cements his relationship with his end customer as a trusted advisor.
So what we actually agreeing on here is that Adding layers of additional value-add services is very important for our mutual MSPs to continue to provide value add to our customers that continue to excite them and delight them.
So I'll just say, Tony, to summarise, the value for our service provider partners really comes from the cost implications of being able to move to a platform where you've got to carry no contingency, and therefore the cost benefit of being able to do that. Secondly, the area of business agility around being able to deploy in regions and countries and continents where they were not present before. And thirdly, the revenue generating capabilities around harnessing the native AWS services with the traditional VMware workload.
Exactly. So, Chris, always good talking to you, and thanks for popping in today. And I really look forward to working with you and the team as we continue to help our MSPs build value-add services on VMware Cloud and AWS that will continue to excite our mutual customers. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Tony.